But so that raises to me kind of an importance that as you're doing your research, and now you're using a data set that's 2012,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
it's entirely possible that your publications out of that may not come out until a fair time later.
Hmm.
So in the interim, I would say that it's kind of your obligation, or would be important for you to figure out other ways to distribute your data through blogs, through
Hmm.
popular media, through ways of that have a much shorter life cycle, so that it becomes useful.
Definitely. Yeah, one of the things that the pilot study for my dissertation was looking at the Wisconsin gubernatorial recall. And what I've done there is I've started to publish small parts of the study I did through as a social science research network to, to get it out there, claim it as, myself, so I can submit it to a journal, and they don't care if I do that. So because it's likely that that won't be published till 2014.
Right.
But I do intend on doing things like that just to get my findings from my research out, because it will matter, sooner than it's published. What I'm finding is pretty important and interesting, and contrasts quite significantly with the study, because I'm looking at a data set of 53 million that's collected over 86 days.
53 million tweets.
53 million tweets over 86 days. So I have both debates, press conferences, and also the general off day where people aren't talking. So I can draw contrasts based on that.
Right.
And unlike this study here, I used a combination of keywords, hashtags, and @mentions to collect on, not follower networks. I was really interested in the political discourse as opposed to who was following who and what the last tweet they said was. So I think I have breadth in regard to that in the study that I'm working on right now.
Well, this is a very important point that you and I both seem to agree with on critiquing the study, is that if you're limiting yourself only to looking at who people follow, you're almost guaranteed to find, except for rare people like me who tends to like to follow the other side, you're almost
Yes.
guaranteed to find people clustering with like-minded people,
Hmm.
because that's sort of the way socializing goes. But
Exactly.
that's not how political messaging and political engagement goes, is it?
No, not at all. And I think the unfortunate part of the study was that they eliminated the 3,000 messages that didn't fit into a cluster. So they basically had a 5,000 tweet data set, got rid of 60% of it, which could have been where the real interesting interactions occurred, because those would have been individuals that weren't necessarily identifying with a specific cluster of individuals.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you're finding in terms of once you look at the hashtags, what kind of cross fertilization, cross ideological conversations are you seeing?
So I haven't had a chance to actually analyze any conversations from the presidential election, but the Wisconsin recall election, what I was able to identify was significant actual conversations back and forth between people that were ideologically, different, significantly different. Arguing, I have one conversation that's 300 interactions back and forth, which is counter to what anyone thinks of in social media, that it's this 2 to 3 interactions back and forth. This was a conversation that occurred over a couple days, and at times was almost like an a chat room where people were arguing the merits of state healthcare in Wisconsin. Um,
Now, this is a very interesting phenomenon that you're seeing, because, there were reports coming out of on the television news about Wisconsin featuring the fact that people stopped talking to each other about politics. That was so divisive. So friends and neighbors who were normally would talk to each other about almost anything
mhm.
weren't talking to each other about this issue, and yet at the same time there were these really in-depth conversations going on Twitter in front of a very large local public audience.
Yeah, and using hashtags to identify their conversation. So these weren't people that found each other and using a hashtag and then took their conversation offline essentially from that hashtag. They continued using the hashtag. They wanted it to be known that this is what they were talking about, which I think is not well publicized in the context of at least academic literature and social media.
Yeah, I know that even to this day, the WI Union hashtag is still a very powerful hashtag. A lot of
Hmm.
conversation going on, and not just focused on Wisconsin, but
Hmm.
it's been broadened out to the broader assault on public unions and union membership and attacks from the right regarding that. I think
Definitely.
it works its way into the right to work debates that are going on across the country. So it's interesting how a locally generated hashtag has legs that carries it much further than that initial conversation.
Exactly.
Well, Chris, it has been fascinating to talk to you, and also thank you to Alan Rosenblatt for bringing us your work. It'll be a fascinating dissertation to read. I got to ask you, there are going to be some people who look at your Twitter handle, Maize and Blue, and say, okay, what's the connection to the University of Michigan?
I did my undergraduate work there, and I'm dedicated to the sports program. By unfortunately, we had an unfortunate night last night, but oh well.
Well, we won't talk about Michigan State, but look,
Yeah.
Chris, University of Michigan grads are all about doing great things for society and academia and business and industry. You are certainly doing some amazing stuff in academia. So, hail to the victors, go blue. We salute you on behalf of the entire Michigan family, and I know that. On behalf of everybody who's following Twitter and social media, it's also a fascinating dissertation that you're working on. So thanks for being with us.
Great, thanks, David. Go
And
blue.
Go Blue and Alan Rosenblatt, thank you as well for another interesting guest.